Let's continue exploring the universe within art and the art behind redstone. I'm your host, OmLedu, and in this video, we're going to look at how to make a super duper easy hidden chest in Bedrock. And a big shout out to Stream Maker, thank you so much for leaving a comment, and I'm super glad that you enjoy the videos. So, namaste and dhanyavad. But for this tutorial, we're going to go over how to simply use a lever, or how to make a super fancy activation using a skulk sensor. So whether you want some secret custom activation, or you simply just want to hide a lever somewhere, that will all be totally up to you. We'll also cover how to make a locking mechanism that works both with levers and with the calibrated skulk sensor. So there are a few things that we need to think about before we start building. The main one being that you're going to have to hide this piston in the floor. There are ways to make a completely flush hidden chest, but it makes it much more complicated, whereas this is super duper simple. You can hide this piston simply by using carpet, or you can go a step further and use some fancy decoration. Functional builds such as enchanting tables and their bookshelves are also perfect for hiding this piston. Or you could just build it up against a wall and not need any kind of suspicious decoration at all. Another thing to keep in mind is if you want to use levers, those will need to be hidden as well. You can either hide them in plain sight by using them as decoration, or you can go a step further and hide them behind something, or around or on top of something. We could even go a step further and add a locking lever that will lock either the calibrated skulk sensor or your lever input, so as long as the lock is activated, no one will be able to find your chest. But with all of that in mind, let's build it. So here are all the materials that you will need, depending on what kind of input you want to use. If you want to use a lever, you will simply just need more redstone dust and blocks, but if you want to use a calibrated skulk sensor, you will need all of the stuff here at the top. Now the sword and the 19 seeds are just filler items to have it trigger for fireworks. So if you want to use a different sort of trigger, you will need a different amount of those items. But to have it activate when you shoot a rocket, you will simply need one non-stackable item and 19 stackable items. Your build area is going to be 5 by 4, 3 blocks under the floor. So 3 blocks of air between your floor and the bottom. Your chest is going to be in the middle on the front row. So wherever you want your chest, place 2 sticky pistons, then the chest. Then on the block above the chest, we need to break out the 2 blocks behind that and place in a sticky piston. Now the block right behind the sticky piston needs to be a solid block. After that, go back down to the bottom piston, place an observer facing that with 2 pieces of redstone dust. Then go to the other side, place a repeater on a 3-tick delay, so poke that repeater 2 times, place glass above it and a solid block behind it with dust on top. You just built a basic design for a double piston extender. Now we just need to tie in the redstone to the other piston. So place 2 solid blocks next to this glass, then 1 block diagonally up from that, then 2 blocks next to that block, and then a diagonal block up like so. Then we need 2 repeaters facing toward the back right here in this hole, and these need to be on a maximum delay. Then we need 3 pieces of redstone dust, and all that's left is to place a redstone torch on the other side of this block right here. Placing that torch should activate the piston. And that's it. It is now totally done except for an input. So decide whether you want to use a lever or a calibrated skulk sensor. Either way, they will tie in exactly the same. They just need to activate one of these 4 redstone dust right here. So if we just stick a lever on the side of this block, we can see that the machine will work. So go ahead and test it just to make sure before you start running your input. So if you want to use a lever, it is as simple as running redstone from the lever to the frontmost dust. Make sure that you do not activate this dust right here. That dust needs to be completely separate. But as long as you run it to one of the dust in the front, the lever will now work. And so you could run this lever in any way that you want to, from anywhere that you want to. But if we want to use a calibrated skulk sensor instead, that is super easy as well. But we do need to add a T-flop next to the activation. So place a comparator next to that block with the dust, place a copper bulb or any other T-flop next to that comparator. Then we're going to place the calibrated skulk sensor next to the bulb, making sure that the little purple section has a comparator pointed into it. Then place a dropper, and we just need to fill this dropper with the correct number of items so that the calibrated skulk sensor will only activate from whatever you're trying to make it activate from. For this example, we're going to make it activate by shooting a rocket, which means we need a signal strength of 3, which for a dropper is 1 non-stackable item and 19 stackable items. So now it will ignore any sort of vibrations that we make unless we shoot a rocket. Shooting a rocket will then toggle the machine between on and off. Now if you don't want to use rockets, or if you want it to activate by taking an action in a very specific place, go check out my skulk sensor guide. I cover all of the different ways that you can use sculk sensors to achieve the precise type of activation that you're looking for. But now let's take a closer look at how these mechanics work, as well as how to make a door lock. So in Bedrock only, you can move containers by using pistons. This does not work in Java. You cannot move chests in Java by using pistons. So here, we can just use a double piston extender to shove the chest up 2 blocks so that it's now above the floor. However, we also need to move the block that's above the chest so that the chest doesn't, have a hole above it. That wouldn't be very hidden. Aside from that, we need a third piston that is inverted from the other two, so we need a redstone torch, and we need that piston to deactivate immediately so it pulls the block out of the way, but then we need it to activate after a delay. So that's what the max delay repeaters are for. Now, one drawback to it being so simple is that we do have to hide this piston in the floor. So get creative when it comes to hiding your levers and hiding your pistons. Being forced to hide things, especially levers, is really great practice when it comes to detailed decorating. So get creative and have fun playing around with different things. Now, if you want to add a secret lever to lock and unlock your input, whether you used a calibrated sculk sensor or a lever, it is all exactly the same. So in this example, this lever here by the tree is our locking lever. As long as that lever is on, we cannot make the chest pop up. But if we turn this lever off, we can now use the input to make the chest appear. So what this is doing is blocking your input signal from ever reaching your piston extender down at the bottom. And the way we do this is super duper easy. The way this works is we have a repeater that is just turning off a subtraction mode comparator. So your locking lever is attached to a repeater that is going into the side of a subtraction mode comparator that is just somewhere along the input line. It can be anywhere along the input line, that doesn't matter. Or if you use the calibrated sculk sensor, all we have to do is place a repeater next to the comparator that is next to the bulb, switch that comparator to subtraction mode, and now anytime this repeater is activated, it will prevent the signal from the T-flop ever reaching the machine. So just run a lever to that repeater and it'll be good to go. But that's all we got for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, share, and subscribe, and be sure to leave me a comment. Let me know what you did or didn't like about the video, or if you have any questions or requests, I will do my best to help you out. And if you ever want to learn more about Redstone, I have a series called Let's Learn Redstone, where I start with the absolute basics and work our way up to the more advanced mechanics. And I promise that Redstone is not as complex as it may seem. So give it a watch and you'll be a Redstone wizard before you know it. And a big shout out to all of my subscribers, all of my supporters, and to you. Y'all are all totally awesome. Thank you so much for your support, and thanks for watching. Again, I really hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you again soon. But until then, I've been your host, OmLedu, sharing a redstone trick or two, and reminding you, as always, don't forget to have fun. Bye-bye.